Hi, I'm Alexandra,
And I'm Sarah, and you're listening to One Step Ahead.
a podcast where we pretend to be your wise big sisters as we share insights about growing up, finding yourself, and designing a career path you'll love to follow.
On today's episode, we're talking about the ACT and SAT, how to prepare for these tests, what worked for us when testing, college visits, and college decision day.
Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. It's going to be a good day. I'm putting it out there. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. I hope it's a good day too. We can manifest it.
Manifest that. Oh my gosh, that's a whole episode in and of itself. Manifestation. Are you into that? Or have you done a lot of it?
No. But sometimes
No.
I do think if you put like things out into existence or say things or like say goals out loud that they actually do come true. So like maybe a little bit, but not like intensely.
Not like I have candles by my vision board and I look at it every night sort of situation. Okay.
I have not dabbled in that yet.
Not dabbled in that. I have watched plenty a YouTube video about manifestation, but that's besides the point. Okay. Well, today, guys, we're going to be basically talking about like the ACT and the SAT and then college visits. But before we jump into that, I want to remind you guys, please follow us on Instagram at the One Step Ahead podcast. Like our photos and comment. It helps us grow our podcast, and we're very interested in your feedback. We want to answer your questions if you have any. And then also follow us on or subscribe to us on YouTube if you like to watch your podcast instead of listen. And again, that's just the One Step Ahead podcast. All right, Sarah, you ready to jump into the ACT and the SAT?
Oh, yeah. Couldn't be more excited.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. So, ACT, SAT. Step 1, figure out which one you want to take. They're both your standardized tests for college. If you're applying to colleges, I'm sure you have heard about, talked about, thought about the SAT and ACT. But just know that there is like a difference between them. The SAT just has reading, writing, language, math, I think, and then the ACT has math, writing, reading, science. And well, you can do the writing component if you want, but you don't have to. So consider all of these things when you're looking at which test to take. Look at what your school requires as far as entrance exams. And honestly, I took both. I didn't like the SAT. I did not as well on the SAT, so I took the ACT again. That was just kind of how I determined it, but I ended up starting off by taking both of them, and I took both of them with writing. And then the second time that I took the ACT, I took it without writing. That's just the way I did it, but I think it makes sense. If you do well in writing the first time, don't do it again because you can swap scores and it's like a whole thing. This is just like the brief overview. I don't think we have time nor the knowledge to go super in depth. But yeah, just like know which school what schools you're applying to, or generally have an idea and what tests they prefer, if they prefer either. And like plan ahead in that so you can take the test at a time where it's not like stressful academically for you, or like take it in the summer when you have time to prep for it, or take it far enough advanced so you have time to retake them if you choose to before you do college applications, because you don't want to be like scrambling around. So I took one in the summer, and then I took one the fall of my senior year, I believe. And then I was like, okay, that was enough for me. And I applied with those scores. But just prepare early and decide which ones you're going to take and just have that all planned out. I think the whole, something we preach a lot is like plan ahead. And that's true for this as well. And then also I think everyone stresses out about like taking them and prepping for them. And like, do I need a tutor? What do I need to be doing leading up to it? So check your library, check your local like colleges. They're probably going to have prep courses for free. My library did. That's where I went. I did a free practice test there. And they also have prep books from the library that you can get, and you can do like the work outside of like, don't write in the book. Obviously you can write in like a notebook, and it's the same thing. So if you're looking to kind of cut costs on prep tests and doing that practicing before you go in and take it, those are my recommendations to check your library, because odds are if you call them and you're like, hey, I'm looking for the ACT book, even if they don't have it, they'll probably order one for you, because that's just how libraries are, and we love them. So yeah, check your library. That's what my biggest little nugget of advice is. And then I think just consider the cost before you start this whole process. Like, the tests are about $50 each. So how much are you willing to spend on the exams? How much do you have to spend on the tests? How is that best spent as far as like prep work or tutors or just taking the test? Just kind of take that all into consideration before you kind of dive in and spend a bunch of money on test books and everything like that. So those are my little pieces of advice. What about you, Alexandra?
Okay, well, everything you said for sure, for sure. I know online you can find old SAT and ACT tests. I would absolutely recommend like going online, finding an old test, taking those as your practice tests. I think the biggest like advantage you can have when you go into these tests is knowing the format of the test, like know what order they come in, know what like a sample question looks like. Just understand what you're walking into so you're not wasting time on the test trying to figure out what you're trying to answer. I think that's a rookie mistake for sure. I also think like don't you know exactly how many questions you are going to have on each section when
Yeah.
you're going into it? Okay. Once you figure out that number, like let's say, you know, it's you have 1 hour and there's 30 questions. You should be doing like the math beforehand where you divide like an hour by 30. So then you know, oh, I have 2 minutes per question. And then you should roughly be able to know how much time you should be spending on a question. In terms, Sarah, like when you were taking the test and like let's say you came to a problem that you didn't understand or you were like, oh, I'm not sure about this one. Did you skip it and come back to it or did you try and work through it?
I skipped it and came back to it because I think because it's timed, you want to get as many correct as you possibly can. And if you're going to guess and get it wrong, or you're guessing maybe get it right, but you spend 5 minutes, it's not worth it. So I skipped it and I came back, which is sometimes hard to do in certain sections because, like, for the reading section, obviously you read and then you answer questions. So you can't skip like an entire section, but just if you're spending too long on like one math question, skip it. And also, this is just my personal advice. So, like, maybe listen to this, maybe don't. I don't know. But for the science section, I actually read the questions first and then read the information that it was asking. And also for the reading questions, I read the questions first or like skimmed them. So I had an idea, like, oh, if it's asking for a question on like chemical makeup of something when I'm reading the chemistry, like, information because it's like a written lab basically, then I'm specifically looking for that information. I'm not wasting my time like reading about all these weird like numbers when it's not asking about that. So I think like looking for quick keywords and questions is also like a really efficient way to take the test, especially if it's like your first time and you have no idea what you're doing and you haven't really prepped and you're kind of like going in to get an idea of kind of where you're at. Or like for a practice test, I think a lot of people do that. If you take a full length practice test and you kind of just go in, no knowledge, just kind of figuring out where you're going to be, that's like an efficient way to take it. And kind of like if that would be a method that is going to work for you in the future. It worked for me. So like, I think if you're a decent test taker, that's probably a good method to go by because you can quick skim and not waste time on questions.
Yeah, I think I did that too. I definitely skimmed questions. I think something too, like, particularly with the science section, I think, or I know a lot of younger kids who were nervous, or like kids who were in my grade too when we were taking it, who were nervous about the science section, thinking it was more like actually science questions, but really is just reading comprehension with like, or reading comprehension, but in science.
You're like
So it's
interpreting graphs and things like that. Like I remember looking at a lot of graphs.
yeah, it's not like you need to come in knowing like a lot of like biological functions or chemistry or anything. I think there are a few questions like that, but it's more comprehending um scientific charts and paragraphs and whatever. I think I definitely had a question about like a bird for sure. I don't know if
Clearly it
you
was
did.
traumatizing because you remember that. That's weird.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Um, yeah, and I would say too, there's so much like emphasis placed on these tests while you're going into school and stuff. But if you're not a great test taker, the best thing you can do is plan ahead, like plan, just know it's coming. But also there are universities that don't require you to submit your test grades. So that's something you could always look into too. That kind of, I think, helps ease your mind knowing like, hey, this test isn't the end all be all for me. There are universities that, you know, will accept me even if I don't take the test. So just get a plan in place, figure it out. Definitely go on YouTube. There are tons of SAT, ACT prep videos. Watch them. Just have a plan in place. Oh, also like sleep the night before. Don't pull I'm going to stay up till 4 a.m. studying, or I'm going to stay up till 4 a.m. because I'm nervous. Like get up, eat breakfast, try and make your routine as like calming and normal as possible. Don't drink too much coffee so you're too jittery and nervous, but be hydrated, eat a good breakfast. At school, in elementary school, when I always took, it's called I-STEP in Indiana. That's our standardized testing thing. They always gave us peppermints before we started because peppermint helps get the brain going or something like that. It helps with memory. So eat a peppermint and y'all will be good.
I think like
Okay.
also just remember that everyone's going to be talking about it senior year and even into your freshman year of college. But like everyone's like, oh my gosh, what did you get on the ACT? But like beyond that, nobody cares, honestly. Like Alexandra and I were talking like a week or so ago and we were like, what did you get on the ACT? And I was like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know what score ended up getting submitted to the schools. And so that kind of just shows like it was such an important thing to me. But now I haven't thought about it in a hot second, and it seems to have not really impacted my life in any major way. So you're fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be the talk of the school for a year maybe, but then nobody cares and everybody moves on, and the ACT and the SAT are not defining factors of your life. I promise. So don't put that pressure on yourself.
Correct. Okay, quick action step. I would say the action step that I would give y'all is absolutely do that. Understand the layout of the test and then walk through a practice test and figure out what your best strategy to take the test is.
I think go to your library and use the resources that they have before you choose to purchase anything. Okay, so the next thing we want to hit real quick is college visits, which I think are a really important piece of making your decision on where you want to go and where you want to end up. And even in COVID, most schools are running college visits, but obviously before you go, check on that, schedule a visit, make sure you're showing up on time, make sure you know what time you're going. Most of them are scheduled online. It's pretty straightforward. You just go to the college website and then schedule a visit, and then you'll be able to go on like a tour of the campus. Most of the time they take you on a tour of the campus. You'll sit in like a little informational session. It's very low stress. Don't stress about college visits. Nobody's like interviewing you or anything. Like I don't know. Like I feel like people can get worried about college visits and like it's a huge thing, but it's not. It's very low stress. Chill. But yeah, you'll walk around campus, you'll see everything. And then sometimes even you'll be able to go to another informational session with like a major you're considering, which is always helpful. I did that at Belmont. I went to like a nursing specific meeting, which was nice to kind of hear from those professors, or just the people that are going to be like part of my education at that school in my specific major. So if you can sign up for that, even if you're not like for sure dead set on a major, I think it's like a good idea to kind of at least see some of the professors, and speak to some people who are like teaching at the school or leaders in the school. That's a good kind of determining factor to see if those are the kind of people you want to spend the next 4 years with. And I think just kind of don't be afraid to ask questions on the tour. That's literally what the tour guides are for. I'm sure that they love questions. Like those people probably enjoy getting all those questions.
Yeah, that is why they are tour guides.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, please ask me a question, and a good one.
Yeah.
And then also something that I did on the way home from each college visit or on my way to the next school, because I did a lot of them like back to back, it's a really good thing to just like jot down your notes. Often I would just write down who the tour guide was because I'm a lot better at like remembering the people. And I was like, oh yeah, the girl with curly hair, she was like my tour guide at whatever school. And that kind of was a good way to kind of place where you were and be like, oh yeah, what did I see there? What did I like there? So quick make notes, be like, oh my gosh, I loved like the university like student services, and I loved what the dorms looked like, and I loved what campus looks like. Didn't so much love the food that we had, or didn't so much love the gym, or whatever you kind of liked and didn't like, and make notes of the surrounding area as well. I think that's a really important aspect of school that you sometimes forget. Like, what does 1 or 2 blocks off campus look like? Because odds are you're going to end up living, if you choose to live off campus, that's probably where you're going to live. So make sure it's safe, make sure you feel comfortable there. Um, but yeah, I would make notes on the way home, or even have your mom be like, whatever I said kind of like off the bat, can you just like kind of make quick little notes on? And like, that's what my mom did. She was like, you said you didn't like this. And so I quick wrote it down, and I was like, oh, thank you. Because you say things and you don't remember them, and then you go see another school and everything gets jumbled, and you're going to see a lot of schools probably. So it's a good way to kind of keep everything organized. What about you, Alexander? What's your advice on this?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I think the first thing to know is that when you are going on a college tour, you are being presented the best of the best. Like, you're talking with the best professor, or the most energetic professors, the students that love the college the absolute most. And I'm not saying that that is a bad thing, but you do need to be very aware that that is probably not the vibe that all students have and all professors have. So I think to complement your college visit, you should do some prep work before you go to try and talk with students who aren't necessarily like the tour guide. So, for example, let's say you're going to visit Belmont, and there was no one in my area who I knew who went to Belmont, but if I did, like if someone from my high school or my town or area had gone to Belmont or was currently a student at Belmont, I would absolutely try and get in contact with them. So when you're on your tour visit of the school, you can try and talk with them like in person and actually see what their real experience is. But if you don't know someone like that, or you don't have a link to try and get something like that, honestly, just while you're walking around campus, see if you see like a friendly face around campus and be like, hey, I'm on a tour. Can I ask you a few questions? I know I have actually had someone do that to me on campus, and I was more than happy like to talk with them, because actually it was a mom who stopped me once, and she asked me something. She was like, oh, is this actually true? And the advice that, or what they had been told, I thought was quite different than the reality of the actual situation. And I think it's really important to hear those opinions from people who aren't being paid by the school to say them. And not to, I'm not wanting to reflect negatively on our school or anything like that, but I think that is true of absolutely all schools when you're going there, for sure. Another thing I did when I was on my college visit was I made sure I sat in on a class. So I like reached out to the teacher, and I was able to sit in on a class in the back, and I saw like student presentations and things like that. And I took notes the whole entire time. And I mean, maybe you don't need to do this with all the schools you're going to, but if you're going to like the school you think your top schools or whatnot, I would absolutely reach out to the person who coordinates the tours and then ask to meet with a teacher like one-on-one, and be like, hey, just kind of tell them what your plans are, and ask what the school, like what they do as a professor to help you, and how the other professors within your department are there to support your education, for sure. And then after I sat in on the class I know I talked with like other students who were in the class, just to kind of see what their vibe was and all of that, and how they were enjoying their freshman year, because it was a freshman class I sat on. Yeah, I would also say walk around the campus by yourself. Like after you're finished with the tour, kind of go back by yourself, just kind of take a moment to be like, hey, do I really see myself fitting in here? Another thing too is, I know when I took my tour, we went into the dorms, and funny enough, actually the dorm I lived in my freshman year, the room that everybody lived in, or not excuse me, the room that everybody toured was the room I ended up living in my freshman year. And like that, I lived on like, I sat on, or my bed was like the first bed, it was like A1 in the room, so definitely the bed that everybody sat on during their tour was my bed, which was like, I didn't love that fact. But that's okay. Also, just when you're visiting the dorms, beyond all the like standard things, like, do you like the rooms? Do you think this is like comfortable and safe? And what's the shower situation like? Is there laundry in the building? Does it cost, does laundry cost money? Do they have vending machines or food service in your dorms? Is the lobby nice to hang out in, or all of that? I think the biggest thing about the dorms, beyond the safety factor and like, yeah, the safety factor and like health factor too, is the building up to code and all of that. Um, is dorm life going to be fun? Is your room going to be quiet enough that you need to study, but also are you going to be able to meet like your friends? Your dorm is a great place to meet friends. Your freshman year, you kind of become friends with people just happenstance by, your roommates and your location. You know, that's a lot of how proximity starts. Another thing, how many times can I say another thing? A lot of times, I think. If you're interested in a club, visit a club. Like, ask, reach out in advance. Like, I'm in a club called Enactus, and they're the social entrepreneurship club. I know for a fact if I reached out to the club, they would have absolutely like welcomed me to a meeting to like check it out and see what's up. So reach out to like those extracurriculars that you think you might be interested in, because likely that's another place where you'll be meeting your friends for sure, and building your portfolio and resume outside of the classroom. Also, when you visit a club, that's a great place, like, or it's a great way to leave with like a real name and a real number of someone who you have you share a genuine interest or commonality with. And I know I've given my number to students before, and we've texted, and I've answered a few questions and seen students once they like actually came to school. Um, can you think of anything else in specific that you should do, Sarah, like while you're on your college visit?
I was just thinking about when you were like sitting on a class. I know that some schools also you can actually stay with a host student for the night. Um,
Oh yeah.
which is definitely like I didn't personally do, so I don't have the experience doing that, but I know I had friends who were hosts, who would host freshmen or I guess seniors like looking to go the next year. And they would just stay with them in a dorm for a night. They would go to all their classes with them. They would go to the cafeteria with them. And if you're kind of looking for that full, like, well-rounded experience, that might be a good way if you don't have any connections on campus and no one's like, hey, come spend the night, like, come see what it's like. You can ask to do that, and you'll get plugged in with somebody who is associated with the university, but I think will also provide a more well-rounded experience, and you'll be able to see all the different aspects kind of for yourself removed from the tour. Because if you're with one-on-one on a student, no one's gonna be like, that kid's on a tour, and like everyone's kind of being like showy. It's a little bit more I think genuine. So
Yeah.
that's like something I didn't do, but is also an option that if that sounds like something you'd want to do, then there always is that availability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think genuine, trying to find the genuine, how do you say that? Genuineness? Nope, not a word. Um, I don't know. Just try to find people who are genuine in your experience. You'll have a more honest like reflection of your college visit. Oh, also, I'm not on social media, but like if you're a social media person, look for the school you're going to. Look for like their clubs and the members of their clubs on social media. I think that's a good way to kind of see where people hang out in the area, what people do. Oh, definitely ask if you're able to talk with a student, what do people do to recreate? Like at your school, is it a big party school, or is it not so much? Like, what's the school spirit like when you're there? Is like, are football games big, or basketball games, or whatever? Just kind of ask about the culture of the school from a perspective that isn't someone who is giving you the tour. Yeah. Okay, D-Day, decision day. I know we briefly talked about this before, but um I think we should hop into this again, dive a little bit further, talk about like the final criteria that really pushed us over, or tipped the scale for us to pick Belmont. um I know in the previous episode I mentioned on D-Day I made massive pros and con lists for my two schools. Like, they were longer than like our kitchen counter. I really popped off when I made those lists. So yeah, Sarah. What you got to add?
I decided actually on I went back for an accepted student day, which if you have the opportunity to go, I recommend those as well. I decided that I wanted to go, and that's kind of when I made my decision. I did not make necessarily pro con list. I did wait until I got obviously an acceptance back, and then also scholarship information because that was an important factor for me to just kind of know what kind of finances I was putting into the school and if that was reasonable for my family. And that was once I got that kind of scholarship package back, I was like, okay, this is like doable for us, and that also helped with the decision. Um, but I think I just kind of like had this like gut feeling, even like going on the first tour. I was like, okay, I could like see myself here. Like I would fit in with these people. Like I could definitely like see that they were similar personalities to me and people that I would want to be friends with. And I think that's like a good way to just be like, does it feel like the right fit when you visit? Because if it doesn't
Mhm.
from the first time that you visit, it's probably never going to. I went to a school and toured it, and um, like a really good school. And I think that had I gone there, I would have been happy there. But I just remember the first time touring it, it was like everyone was so stressed out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just could not see myself thriving in this sort of like culture academically. Um, and whether that was just happened to be the day that I was there or the tour guide that I had, I don't know. But I knew that that like just didn't feel like a good fit for me. So I quickly like eliminated that school. But Belmont was one that I kept coming back to and was like, no, I could see myself there. I could see myself there. And I think that that was kind of, I just had this like gut feeling. And then also just know that like the decision's ultimately yours. Like, yes, ask input from your friends and family, but like it's your decision. And if you make a decision based off of other people, I think you could have regrets about that and you don't want to. So just know that at the end of the day, it's your decision to make, of course, with the guidance of like your parents and family if they are the ones contributing financially. But it's your decision to make at the end of the day. So I think that's important.
Mhm. I know I made my decision like right before like the cutoff at night, but I think I was leaning towards Belmont, but my I read and read and kept adding to my big pros and con list. So I really thought every single element over. But yeah, I think just being comfortable with your decision and feeling like you should I kind of feel like you should have that gut feeling too when you're submitting. Like you should be like, okay, yeah, this was the right choice for me. Um Regardless of what criteria you use to make that decision. I think and once you make your decision for your school, like even let's say it wasn't like your top choice or whatever, be proud of your school. Like you're going to college, that's an incredible blessing. Um and it's really awesome. It is a massive accomplishment to be able to go to school, and you've put in a bunch of hard work and you've accepted, and that's crazy. It is so crazy. Like I remember feeling, oh, I'm going to college. I know where I'm going. Oh my gosh. I can tell people, oh my gosh, this is my school. This is where I'm going. Oh my gosh. Oh.
I think my biggest piece of advice or my action step for the whole college visit process is to take notes after every visit. I think that's the best way to kind of capture what you were feeling at the school and to look back on and to keep it organized. I think that that is like my top thing because when you look back a week or a month and when you're like getting applications in and you're getting acceptance letters and you're doing all that stuff and you're like, what was that school like? You're going to want to look back at the notes and it's going to be so helpful so you don't have to go back and redo that visit, or you can, kind of just already have that picture in your mind as far as like what your top schools are. So I think that's my biggest. Take notes on your schools, whether that's you or a parent or a sibling or somebody that you're like, please just write down what I'm thinking. Or you could even like audio message yourself and just record whatever you're feeling and be like, hey, it was a really good visit. I really loved this and this and this. I think that's the best way to keep yourself organized, to remember what you saw, what you liked at each school. And so then you can make your massive pro con list in the future if you need.
Oh my gosh. When you said audio record, I was like, that was going to be my action step. Yeah. So take notes, but then I think if you record it, you hear the inflection in your voice more. And yeah, like take little videos of campus, just like pretend you're doing a research project when you're going to campus. Take as much information as you need to make an informed decision later. So my action step is go in with the plan, execute the plan. Then once you leave, reflect on the plan, then wait for a bit, and then go look back at all your notes and then make your decision.
I agree. All right. And as we end our podcast, we'll do the same segment that we do every week, where we talk about what we're working towards this week and the goals that we have set for ourselves and then the steps that we're taking to get there. So, Alexandra, what's at the top of the stairs this week for you?
Okay, well, one of my classes next semester, one of my film classes, involves me writing a script that I need to do like ASAP. So I can submit it to a teacher. So that is at the top of my stairs this week, and I will be starting that today, like the outline of it tonight. Or at least I better do that, because otherwise I'm being dumb. And that's the truth. Sarah, what is at the top of your stairs?
For me, going into Christmas, I just want to like stay healthy and keep doing all of my social distancing and wearing my mask and just being like very conscious about the choices that I'm making as I like go out and do things, and kind of what is a priority for me and what can wait until later to do, because I don't want to be sick at Christmas and I don't want to be kind of not have to see my family or like my cousins who are like coming into town, and just kind of want to make sure that I stay healthy, my family stays healthy, everybody is able to like attend to Christmas and do all that stuff, because obviously this year looks a little bit different with that, but just kind of being conscientious about my choices and keeping everybody safe and healthy is my big thing for this week.
Good. That's a big thing. And I didn't even think about this, but this is this is the episode we're posting like before the week of Christmas. So Merry Christmas, guys. Happy holidays.
Yes, that's so weird. Our next podcast will be after Christmas. I feel like this break has just flown right by.
Oh, it has. She said, "Oop, bye." Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of One Step Ahead. We certainly hope you will continue to listen to future episodes. Next week, I mentioned we're talking about like scholarships, loans, honors college versus, like a regular program. We'll probably throw in a little bit more pizzazz as well. We certainly hope you'll give it a listen. Please follow us on Instagram and subscribe to us on YouTube. DM us with your questions because we want to answer them. All right. Bye, guys, and have a Merry Christmas.
Bye.